Sarah Mitchell sat in a beachfront cafe in Canggu, Bali, her laptop open, watching the sun set over the Indian Ocean. 2 years ago, she'd been sitting in a different chair, a Herman Miller ergonomic model in a Boston high-rise, staring at spreadsheets under fluorescent lights, making $110,000 a year. Everyone thought she had it figured out. She didn't. At 33, Sarah made a decision that horrified her parents, confused her friends, and made her boyfriend break up with her on the spot. She quit her stable marketing director job, bought a one-way ticket to Bali, a place she'd never even visited, and arrived with $11,000 in savings and absolutely no plan for what came next. No business idea. No remote work lined up. No safety net. Her father, a retired engineer from Madison, Wisconsin, didn't speak to her for 8 months. Her former colleagues called it a mental breakdown disguised as wanderlust. Her best friend told her she was throwing away everything she'd worked for to play tourist in a third-world country. But Sarah had reached a point where the risk of staying felt more dangerous than the risk of leaving. What happened in those first 24 months tested everything she thought she knew about herself, about success, about what it means to build a life. There were moments she came within days of buying a return ticket and admitting defeat. And then something shifted that she never could have predicted. If you want more true stories of bold decisions and the people who risk everything to reinvent their lives, subscribe now so you never miss the next leap. Sarah's life looked perfect on paper. She'd grown up in Madison, Wisconsin, a good student, a good daughter, someone who did everything right. Her parents, both from solid middle-class backgrounds, had given her every advantage. Her father worked as a mechanical engineer. Her mother taught third grade for 30 years. They'd saved for Sarah's college education since she was born. She graduated from Boston University with a marketing degree and no debt, something her parents were incredibly proud of. By 33, Sarah was living the life she was supposed to want. Director of digital marketing at a growing tech company. Team of 7 people reporting to her. Corner office with a view of the Boston skyline. Salary of $110,000 that let her max out her 401k and still save $2,000 a month. She had the apartment in Back Bay with exposed brick walls and hardwood floors. The Peloton, the boyfriend who worked in finance and talked about buying a house in the suburbs. Weekend brunches in the South End. A life that made her parents beam with pride every time they visited. But every Sunday night, Sarah felt a weight settle into her chest that wouldn't lift until Friday evening. The work itself wasn't bad. She was good at it: growth hacking, conversion optimization, A/B testing email campaigns. She could do it in her sleep. That was the problem. She was doing it in her sleep. Sarah would sit in meetings about quarterly revenue projections and feel like she was watching herself from above, wondering how this became her entire existence. She'd create presentations about customer acquisition costs and think, is this really what I'm supposed to do with the one life I get? Her boyfriend, Marcus, didn't understand. You make 6 figures before you're 35. Do you know how many people would kill for your job? My parents worked in a factory. You think they had the luxury of asking if their work felt meaningful? She did know. That's what made it harder. The guilt of not appreciating what she had. Sarah had always loved travel. In college, she'd backpacked through Southeast Asia for 3 months after graduation, the happiest, most alive she'd ever felt. She'd promised herself she'd go back, live abroad, experience the world before settling down. But then came the entry-level job, then the promotion, then the next promotion, then the salary that made leaving seem not just irresponsible, but ungrateful. You can travel when you retire, Marcus would say. That's what our vacation days are for. 2 weeks in Europe every year. That's more than most people get. But Sarah's Aunt Linda had just died at 61, retired at 59, cancer diagnosis 3 months later, gone at 61. Her bucket list still full of places she wanted to see, things she wanted to do someday. Sarah started having panic attacks in the office bathroom. She'd lock the stall, sit on the toilet lid, and sob for 10 minutes, then wash her face and go back to her desk like nothing happened. This went on for 18 months. Then one Tuesday morning in September, she woke up and couldn't get out of bed. Not depression, pure existential terror. The thought of repeating the same day she'd been repeating for years made her physically ill. She called in sick, spent the entire day researching digital nomad blogs, cost of living in Bali, visa requirements for Indonesia, places she'd never been, but that represented something different, something else. By 11 p.m., she'd made a decision that would change everything. She was going to quit. No remote work arranged. No clear plan. Just leave. Leave America. Leave the life everyone expected her to live. Leave everything that was supposed to make her happy, but didn't. Sarah gave her 2 weeks' notice on a Tuesday morning in late September. Her boss, Jennifer, looked genuinely confused. Is this about salary? We were planning to discuss your VP track next quarter. We can accelerate that conversation. It's not about money, Sarah said. Then what? Another offer? We can match it. I'm moving to Bali. Jennifer's expression shifted from confusion to concern. Bali in Indonesia? For a new position? No, I don't have a job there. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Sarah, Jennifer said carefully, this seems really sudden. Are you sure you're okay? Have you considered talking to someone? Someone meant a therapist. The implication being that only someone having a breakdown would walk away from a six-figure salary to move to a developing country with no plan. I'm not having a breakdown, Sarah said. I'm just done. Done with what? This. All of this. The next 2 weeks were a blur of exit interviews, knowledge transfers, and concerned conversations with co-workers who couldn't understand why she'd throw away a career she'd spent 10 years building for what they called a glorified vacation. The conversation with Marcus was worse. You're doing what? He said when she told him over dinner. I'm moving to Bali. I need to do this. For how long? I don't know. As long as it takes. As long as what takes. Sarah, what are you even talking about? I need to figure out what I actually want. I can't do that here. Marcus put down his fork. This is insane. You're having some kind of crisis. Stable people don't quit their jobs and move to random islands they've never even visited. Maybe I don't want to be stable. Then what do you want to be? Broke? Unemployed? Living in some hut with no running water? I want to be something other than this, Sarah said, her voice rising. I want to wake up and not feel like I'm suffocating. I want to actually live instead of just going through the motions until I'm 65 and finally get permission to be happy. Marcus stared at her. If you do this, we're done. I'm not going to wait around for you to find yourself or whatever this is. I need someone who's serious about building a life. Sarah felt something crack inside her, but it wasn't her resolve. It was the last thread connecting her to a life that had stopped fitting years ago. Okay, she said quietly. Marcus looked shocked. Okay, that's it? 3 years together and you're just... okay? I'm sorry, but yes. He left. She didn't cry. Her parents' reaction was somehow worse. Her father's voice on the phone was cold. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. We sacrificed everything to give you opportunities we never had, and you're throwing away to go play in some third-world country. Dad, it's not. Do you have any idea how privileged you sound? How disrespectful. People would kill for the job you have, and you're just... leaving. For what? To find yourself? That's not how the real world works, Sarah. Her mother was crying in the background. We raised you better than this. We taught you to be responsible, to think about your future, not to be selfish and reckless. I'm not being reckless. Yes, you are, her father said. And when this falls apart, and it will, don't expect us to bail you out. You're on your own. The line went dead. Sarah sat on her apartment floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes, and wondered if everyone was right, if she was making a catastrophic mistake, if she was being selfish and stupid and irresponsible. But she also knew she couldn't stay. Her best friend Amanda came over the night before her flight. Are you absolutely sure about this? Amanda asked. No, Sarah admitted. I'm terrified. Then why are you going? Sarah thought for a long moment. Because I'm more terrified of waking up at 65 and realizing I never even tried. On October 15th, Sarah Mitchell boarded a flight to Denpasar, Indonesia, a place she'd only seen in Instagram photos. She had 2 suitcases, a laptop, and $11,000 in savings. She calculated it would last her 6 months in Bali, maybe 7 if she was careful. She had no idea what she'd do when the money ran out. The first week in Bali felt like a beautiful dream and a terrible mistake happening simultaneously. Sarah rented a small villa in Canggu for $600 a month, less than a third of her Boston rent. The place was basic but had a pool, an outdoor shower, and a view of rice fields. Every morning she'd wake up to roosters crowing in tropical heat, already building at 7 a.m. She'd ride a rented scooter to beachfront cafes filled with other Westerners on laptops, order smoothie bowls, and pretend she was working on something important. But she wasn't, because she had nothing to work on. Sarah had imagined Bali as this place where inspiration would strike, where clarity would emerge naturally, where she'd magically figure out her purpose. Instead, she spent days scrolling through remote job boards, feeling increasingly panicked about her dwindling savings. Her savings, $11,000. Her monthly burn rate, $1,800, villa, food, scooter rental, visa expenses. Her runway, 6 months, maybe less. By week 3, the novelty had completely worn off. Sarah started waking up at 4 a.m. with her mind racing. What have I done? What was I thinking? I had a 6-figure job, and I walked away from it to sit in cafes pretending to work. She applied for remote marketing positions, got interviews, made it to final rounds, and then nothing. Companies wanted someone with remote work experience. She had none, or they wanted someone committed to their time zone. She couldn't guarantee that. Month 2 was worse. Sarah's laptop started having issues. Keyboard sticking, battery dying randomly. A repair shop in Denpasar quoted her $400 to fix it, money she couldn't spare. She bought a used laptop off another expat for $300, but it was slow and unreliable. Then she got severe food poisoning from street food. Spent 4 days in bed, alone, delirious with fever, thinking, if something really bad happens to me here, it would take days for anyone to even notice. She called her mother from the bathroom floor at 2 a.m., crying, "Mom, I think I made a mistake." Her mother's voice was cold. "Do you need money for a ticket home?" "No, I needed to hear your voice." "Sarah, you made your choice. You chose this over your family, over your career, over everything we taught you. You need to live with that choice." The line went dead. Sarah sat on that bathroom floor and cried harder than she'd cried since she was a child. By month 3, her savings were down to $6,200. The math was getting terrifying. She was burning through money with nothing to show for it except a tan and a growing sense that everyone had been right about her. She tried freelancing, created profiles on Upwork and Fiverr, spent weeks bidding on marketing projects, only to lose to people charging $10 or $15 an hour. She landed 2 small projects. One paid $150 after 2 weeks of work. The other client ghosted her after she delivered the work. Sarah started having intrusive thoughts at night. "You're a failure. You're irresponsible. You're exactly what your father said you were. Privileged and ungrateful. You should go home, beg for your job back, admit everyone was right." She looked at flights back to Boston. One-way tickets were around $900. She had the money. She could end this nightmare. Show up at her parents' house, apologize, start over. She had the booking page open on her laptop. Her finger hovered over the purchase button. But then something unexpected happened. Sarah met another American woman, Jenna, at a co-working space called Dojo Bali. Jenna had been living in Bali for 3 years, running a successful copywriting business remotely. "How did you make it work?" Sarah asked desperately over coffee. Jenna laughed, not unkindly. "You think I had it figured out? I was a complete disaster my first year. Burned through my savings, had panic attacks, almost left at least 5 times. What changed? I stopped trying to replicate my old corporate career remotely and started paying attention to what was actually working here." Jenna explained that the expat community in Bali was full of businesses that needed marketing help, villa rental companies, surf schools, yoga retreats, restaurants, co-working spaces. They couldn't afford Boston agency rates, but they had real budgets, and they valued someone who understood both Western markets and local Bali culture. "You're thinking too big," Jenna said. "You're trying to land some $100,000 remote job when there's an entire ecosystem of $500 to $2,000 projects right in front of you. Start small. Build from there." Sarah had been so focused on replicating her old salary that she completely missed the opportunities around her. She started reaching out to local businesses run by expats, offered to redo their Instagram strategies, optimize their Google ads, redesign their websites. She charged $500 to $1,500 per project, a fraction of her old consulting rates, but sustainable in Bali's economy. Her first client was a boutique hotel owned by a French couple. They needed help with their booking funnel. She charged $800, spent 2 weeks rebuilding their entire online presence. They were thrilled, referred her to 3 other hotels. Suddenly, Sarah had work. Not a job, work. Projects. Clients. Cash flow. By month 5, she made $3,200 from local clients, enough to stop hemorrhaging savings. By month 6, she'd made $4,800. Her savings stabilized at $4,500. But she was exhausted, stressed, barely sleeping, because she was doing everything herself: client outreach, project management, design work, copywriting, billing, client communication. She was trading time for money, and there were only so many hours in a day. Month 7 was a breaking point. Sarah took on too many projects simultaneously. Missed a deadline. A client left a scathing review on a Bali business Facebook group. Another client demanded a refund. She had a complete breakdown in her villa one night, screaming into a pillow, "I can't do this. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't know what I'm doing." She was 48 hours away from booking a flight home, but then a conversation changed everything. Sarah met a French entrepreneur named Olivier who ran a small marketing agency in Bali. She mentioned her struggle with managing multiple clients while doing all the work herself. "Why are you doing everything yourself?" he asked. "Because I can't afford to hire anyone." "You're thinking like an employee, not a business owner. You don't need full-time employees. Bali is full of talented Filipino and Indonesian freelancers who work for $10 to $20 an hour. Hire a virtual assistant for admin work. Hire a designer for graphics. Hire a copywriter if you need. You focus on clients and strategy." Sarah had never thought of herself as someone who hired people. That seemed like something real businesses did. But she was desperate. She hired a Filipino VA for $600 per month to handle scheduling, invoicing, client communication, and project management. She hired a local Indonesian designer for $15 per hour to create social media graphics and simple web design. The change was immediate and dramatic. Suddenly she had time. Time to take on more clients. Time to raise her rates. Time to think strategically instead of just executing tasks frantically. By month 9, she was making $6,500 per month, more than enough to live comfortably in Bali. Her small team was handling the execution. She was doing sales, strategy, and client relationships. She'd accidentally built a business. Month 10 was when everything clicked into place. Sarah realized she'd been solving the same problem for every client: how to market hospitality businesses to Western tourists and expats in Bali. And she knew the audience intimately, because she was the audience. She had insights that local Indonesian business owners didn't have. She knew which Instagram aesthetics resonated with American and European travelers. She knew which Facebook ad targeting strategies actually converted bookings. She understood the platforms tourists used, the reviews they trusted, the language that made them click "book now." She stopped taking on random projects and specialized hospitality marketing in Bali. She created productized services, packages instead of custom quotes. 3 tiers. Social media management, $1,200 per month. Full marketing package, $2,500 per month. And marketing plus booking optimization for $1,000 per month. She wasn't selling her time anymore. She was selling solutions. By month 12, exactly 1 year after arriving, she had 8 monthly retainer clients. Monthly revenue, $18,400. Her team had grown to 3 people. Her profit after team costs and expenses, $9,200 per month. She was making more in Bali than she'd made in Boston, and working 25 hours a week instead of 60. But the real breakthrough came in month 14. One of her villa rental clients asked if she could train their internal team on social media strategy instead of just doing it for them. They wanted to eventually bring it in-house. Sarah created a 2-day workshop, charged $3,000. It took her a week to build the curriculum. The client loved it, posted about it in a Bali business Facebook group. Within 2 weeks, 3 other businesses asked for the same training. Sarah realized she could package her knowledge, scale her expertise without trading more hours. She created an online course called Marketing Your Bali Business to Western Tourists, priced it at $497, spent $800 running Facebook ads targeting Bali business owners. She sold 23 courses in the first month. Revenue, $11,431. She created passive income, money that came in while she slept, while she surfed, while she did anything except actively work. By month 18, Sarah's business had 3 revenue streams. Retainer clients, $16,000 per month consulting and training. For $1,000 to $8,000 per month variable, digital course sales, $3,000 to $5,000 per month, mostly passive. Average monthly income, $26,000. Average monthly expenses, including team and tools, $12,000. Monthly profit, $14,000. She built a 6-figure business in 18 months, not by having a perfect plan, but by paying attention, adapting, solving real problems for real people, and refusing to give up when it got hard. Today, Sarah Mitchell is 35. She's still in Bali, though she travels frequently, a month in Portugal, 2 weeks in Japan, back to Bali, then Mexico for a month. She bought a house in Bali last year, paid cash, $120,000, for a 3-bedroom villa with a pool and rice field views. Her Boston rent had been $2,400 per month. She owns this outright. Her business generates $300,000 per year. She works 20 to 25 hours a week. Her team is fully remote. A VA in the Philippines, a designer in Indonesia, a copywriter in Ukraine, a customer service person in Vietnam. She's built an emergency fund of $60,000. She maxes out a SEP IR every year. She has no debt. She sends her parents $500 per month, even though they don't ask for it. Her way of showing them she's not the irresponsible child they thought she was. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Sarah wakes up without an alarm, usually around 7 a.m. to birds and morning light, instead of blaring artificial sounds. She works from her pool deck, or from beachfront cafes, or from co-working spaces when she wants social interaction. She takes 2-hour lunch breaks to surf or do yoga. She has dinner parties with friends from 8 different countries. She's learned conversational Indonesian. She volunteers teaching English at a local school twice a week. She's dating a Dutch entrepreneur who splits his time between Bali and Amsterdam. No pressure, no timeline, no expectations about engagement rings and suburban houses. Her relationship with her parents has slowly healed. It took over a year. Her father called about 6 months ago, his voice shaking. "I saw the article about your business in that entrepreneur magazine. Your mother showed me. I was wrong. I'm sorry I didn't support you. I'm proud of what you built." Her mother visited 3 months ago, spent a week in Sarah's house, met her friends, saw her life. On the last day, sitting by the pool watching the sunset, her mother said something Sarah will never forget. "I spent my whole life doing what I was supposed to do, teaching for 30 years because it was stable, never taking risks because we needed security. I thought that's what you were supposed to do, play it safe. But watching you actually built exactly the life you wanted. I was so scared for you, but you were braver than I ever was." Marcus, her ex-boyfriend, sent her a LinkedIn message last year. "I saw your company profile and the Inc. article. You were right. I'm sorry I didn't support you. Hope you're well. Sarah didn't respond, not out of anger or spite. She just genuinely didn't need his validation anymore. That chapter was closed. Last month, Sarah flew back to Madison for the first time in 2 years. Her parents threw a barbecue. Her father introduced her to neighbors as our daughter, the entrepreneur, with unmistakable pride in his voice. The girl who left Boston with $11,000 and no plan now has more financial security, more freedom, and more genuine happiness than she ever had, making six figures in corporate America. But it's not really about the money. It's not even about Bali. It's about proving to herself that she could trust her own instincts even when everyone she loved told her she was wrong. That she could build something meaningful from nothing. That she didn't need permission from anyone to redesign her life. Some nights, Sarah sits on her balcony watching the sunset over the rice fields and thinks about that bathroom floor in month 2 when she was sick and alone and terrified and came so close to giving up. She's so grateful she didn't. Sarah Mitchell's story isn't about quitting your job and moving to Bali. Most people won't do that. Most people shouldn't do that. It's about something deeper. The courage to acknowledge when your life isn't working, even when it looks perfect to everyone else. American culture teaches us that success is linear. Get the degree, get the job, get the promotion, climb the ladder, buy the house, save for retirement, and then, at 65, if you're lucky, finally start living. Sarah asked a different question. What if I actually live now? That question terrified everyone around her. It terrified her parents, who taught her that stability and security were the most important things in life. It terrified her boyfriend, who valued predictability over possibility. It terrified her colleagues, who'd accepted the trade-off of comfort for freedom. And it terrified Sarah herself. Because here's what no one tells you. Bold decisions are supposed to be terrifying. If you're not scared, you're not actually risking anything meaningful. Sarah's first 6 months in Bali weren't some Instagram fantasy. They were hell. She was lonely, broke, panicking, questioning everything. She came within 48 hours of buying a ticket home and admitting defeat. The difference between people who succeed at radical life changes and people who give up isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't even careful planning. It's stubbornness. It's the willingness to sit in profound discomfort long enough for something to shift. It's refusing to let temporary failure become permanent identity. Sarah didn't have a plan when she left Boston, but she had something more important. A commitment to figure out no matter what. She tried getting remote jobs. Didn't work. She tried general freelancing. Barely worked. She tried local clients. That started working. She tried doing everything herself. Burned out. She tried building a team. That worked better. She tried project-based work. Exhausting. She tried recurring revenue. That was sustainable. Every failure was actually data. Every wrong turn taught her something. Every moment she wanted to quit was a test of whether she really wanted this or just wanted to want it. And here's the most important part. Sarah's success isn't special. There's nothing she did that someone else couldn't do. She didn't have rare skills or secret connections or family money or a backup plan. She just refused to accept that the life everyone expected her to live was the only life available to her. Right now, someone watching this is sitting in a job that's slowly killing them inside. They're making decent money. They have a title that sounds impressive at parties. Their parents are proud. Their friends think they have it together. And they're dying a little bit every single day. If that's you, Sarah's story isn't permission to quit your job tomorrow and book a flight to Bali. That would be stupid. That's not what this is about. It's permission to ask yourself the hard questions. What would you do if you weren't afraid of disappointing people? What would your life look like if you designed it around what you actually want instead of what you're supposed to want? What's the worst thing that could realistically happen if you tried? For Sarah, the worst case scenario was going back to Boston, getting another corporate job, and starting over. That was her safety net. And knowing that safety net existed, knowing she could always go back, made the leap less terrifying. She didn't burn every bridge. She didn't make it permanent and irreversible. She just gave herself permission to try. 2 years later, going back is the absolute last thing she'd ever want to do. Your version of the story won't look like Sarah's. Maybe it's not Bali. Maybe it's not even leaving your city. Maybe it's a career change, or finally starting that business, or ending a relationship that stopped working, or simply having the courage to admit that the life you're living isn't the life you want. Whatever your version is, Sarah's story proves something important. You're allowed to want something different. You're allowed to choose freedom over security. You're allowed to disappoint people if it means not disappointing yourself. And you're allowed to be terrified while you do it, because that's what bold leaps actually look like. Not confident Instagram posts, not perfectly executed plans, but scared, uncertain, committed people who refuse to let fear be the reason they never tried. If this story inspired you, subscribe and share it with someone who might be standing at the edge of their own bold leap today.